Welcome to a deeper dive where you, the viewers, get an opportunity to examine, explore, and hopefully do the same work as the guest on Iyanla FIX My Life. And this week, our show was part one of what will be a three-part episode dealing with family lies and motherless daughters. You know, I think India Irie said it best when she said, "One shot to the heart without breaking the skin. No one has the power to hurt you like your kin." And I'm sure many of us have stories about the hurt that's been caused to us by family members, parents or siblings or cousins or grandparents. This is a story about how people who love each other dearly can hurt each other deeply. This is a story about a woman who had 6 daughters, 2 of whom she didn't raise, and the other 4 feel that they weren't raised by her because she had a drug addiction. In addition, this is a story about how family members will cover up stories and tell lies in an effort to protect themselves and to protect family members. So the details of the story are one thing, but the issues and the lessons are very important. I always say, love people enough to tell them the truth. And in this story, this is a mother who did not tell her children the truth. She didn't tell them the truth about what was going on with her, perhaps because they were too young. She had a substance abuse problem, a drug problem, when they were very young, and she would disappear for hours or days and leave the children alone, which left the older child to take care of the younger children. That's an issue. This is a story about a woman who had children when she wasn't able to take care of them and gave them away, not too far, but gave them away, didn't raise them, but stayed in touch with them so that the children who were given away felt that they weren't wanted like the ones that she kept. This is a story about 6 siblings who don't really know where they come from. They don't understand their history. They don't understand their family lineage, and therefore they have conflict among each other. This is a story about how to heal after so many years of not really knowing or understanding what's going on. It's much, much more than just being related by blood. It's about how you relate to one another. It's about the relationship that you have with one another. It's about how you see one another and how you hold one another. And in our story this week, we met the mother and the 6 daughters, and we began to look at the breakdown between the mother and the oldest daughter, who felt that her mother simply wasn't there and left her mothering responsibilities on her. We can look at the relationship among the siblings, the peacemaker, Keisha, the one who called me, who was in deep distress about the breakdown between her sisters and between her older sister and her mother. And then there's Precious, who was given up for adoption and brought back into the family, yet never quite able to connect. So the lessons of this story are, when you are a parent and you have missteps in your parenting responsibilities, the day is going to come when those children hold you accountable. And we saw the beginning of that in this episode, and we'll see more of it in the second and the third episode, where the children absolutely hold the mother's feet to the fire about what she did and what she didn't do. Now here's the issue. The issue is that the mother doesn't know how to hear it, because the truth is, she did the best she could. She did the best that she could for herself and for her children. And as I shared with Precious in episode 1, sometimes it's in the child's best interest when the parent gives them away. or puts them in a safe place. This is so true when there's a substance abuse problem. Sometimes there's a mental health issue. Sometimes there's a breakdown between the mother and the father that would subject the children to all manner of dysfunction. And so for the good of the child, the mother may determine to give the child away. But the child, whoever they are, and whatever the circumstances, always think, feel, believe that it would have been best to stay with mom. And then when you have a situation where some children are given away, or one child is given away and others are kept, it creates an experience for the child of, what's wrong with me? Why didn't you want me? Why didn't you keep me? And I'm sure we can hear this and have seen this or heard about this when children are given away for adoption. In this situation, Precious was given to a family member. And for some reason, the family never really explained to Precious what was going on with the mother. So as all children do, she made the story about her. My mother gave me away because of me. There's something wrong with me. She didn't want me, which is why she gave me away, which is absolutely not true. We also have a situation here where the mother was very, very young. And while it's absolutely normal, if you will, in today's society for very young children, 14, 15, 16, to have children and attempt to raise them, there's going to come a time when those children are going to ask for information, when those children are going to expect certain things from the parent that the parents certainly didn't have the skills or the experience to give. So this story for me brings up so many issues in the family. And by the tweets that I received and the emails that I'm still receiving, I'm clear that it's triggered up a lot for you. So let's take a look at some things. Parents do the best they could. And I know if you're a parent, you know you did not receive a manual. I know I did not receive a manual. And I had my children at a very young age. My son grew up with me. I was 16 and he was a baby. By the time I was 32, he was 16. So we kind of grew up together. And I'm very, very clear that there were many things that he needed that I just didn't have. There were ways of being that I held on to that probably weren't productive for him. Here's the key. The minute I realized it, I confessed it. It is so important that parents give up this illusion that they're perfect and the children have to accept them just as they are. As parents, we have a responsibility to continue parenting throughout our children's lives. And as we discover things about ourselves, it's important that we share those things with our children, because when they're younger, they make all of the frailties and foibles and weaknesses of the parents about them. Children feel it's their responsibility to fix everything and help everybody, and when they can't, they take it on as their own failure. Another tip is learning how to hear the truth that your children tell. It's their truth. It's their experience. And their truth and their experience doesn't necessarily mean that you're being indicted or tore down or beat up or attacked. We've got to, as parents, learn how to hear what our children are saying. And as you'll see in the coming episodes, and you saw a little of it in this episode, this was a mother who simply couldn't hear what her children were saying. The other thing is when parents have a break or a separation from their children, they often don't understand the children's anger and the children's upset, even when those children become adults, because the anger and the upset isn't coming from the adult, it's coming from the child. And we have to learn how to sit in that, hear that, and receive it, not as an indictment against who we are, but as a reality of the child's experience. Then we have here also the breakdowns between the siblings. Those are hard to mend, particularly when there are more than 2 or 3 children where their bonds between the siblings haven't taken place. Each child is fighting for their place in the parent's heart, and they will fight each other to get it. And that's definitely what we have going on here. In the coming weeks, as we continue to explore and examine and grow and learn and heal with this family, there's a few questions you should ask yourself. Am I holding a story from my children about me that isn't true? Am I holding a story, or am I holding an experience from my children and not telling them the truth about it? It is important that when your children become adults, that you treat them like adults and love them enough to tell them the truth. Here's the thing that I've learned. Your children are going to love you anyway. Now, they may be a little disappointed and they may be a little upset, but they're going to love you anyway, and they'll respect you more for telling them the truth. They're not fragile. They're not going to die and break and fall apart. They want to know who you are. The other important thing to note is you can give children or you can give family members everything, but if you don't give them your heart, eventually there's going to be a breakdown. We see that in this story. This was a mother who wasn't in touch with herself, who never gave her children her heart. Plus, her history that you'll learn about in episode 2 had her heart closed. She was absolutely closed down. Now, I've seen your tweets out there. Let's not go on the attack. Let's not make assumptions. Let's wait and let it play out. To the children, I want to say this. Before your parents were your parents, they were children, and they were people that may have had some broken places in their heart. And while they gave you all that they could, even when it wasn't what you needed or wanted, be grateful for what you got. I had to tell these women in this particular story over and over. She gave you what she had. So don't look at your parents as them withholding something from you or taking something from you or keeping something from you. They gave you what they had. They were broken children, many of them. I was a broken child that grew up and tried to be an adult woman raising little children, and it did not turn out well for me until I got clear and was able to stand in my story, tell the truth about it, and let my children know about it. If this story triggered up things for you, maybe you're in breakdown with your parents. Maybe you're in breakdown with your siblings. As I said on Facebook over the weekend, and as I'll say again, breathe deeply. So very often when we feel the pain or the trauma or the memory of a difficult experience, we hold our breath. Don't do that. Breathe. And if you can't do anything else, write it out. Write out what you're thinking. Write out what you're feeling. Write out what you remember. Use your cuss words. Use name calling. It's on your paper. It's not going to anybody. It's between you and you. Write it out. And if you can't get the thoughts and the words right, just make circles, make scribbles, make stick figures. Do whatever you have to do, but get the energy moving. Give yourself permission to feel. It's just energy. And holding on to that energy, it's not going to harm your parents. It's going to destroy your life, as you will see with these 6 sisters or these 6 daughters. Let me speak very briefly about being a motherless child. Mother is our first teacher. Mother is our first love. And when the mother and the child don't bond, there's a hole in the heart that we will try to fill with any and everything that gives us that loving experience or the experience of being loved. Now, when a daughter is motherless, either because her mother wasn't there through natural means or some other means, or her mother wasn't present in her heart. That daughter very often misses the demonstration of who she can be and will be as a woman. Motherless daughters. I want to talk to you about that more after you see next week's episode, where we really get to see the breakdown between this mother and these daughters and how it has affected their hearts. So I hope you'll stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in. Take some notes as you're watching the show, and if you have questions, you can send them to me at iyanlasfixins@gmail.com. This is a very difficult story. It's a very powerful story, and it offers healing to so many of us because it speaks about our foundation, which is the family. Talk to you again next time.